What is your full name?
Theodore. Gach.
Where and when were you born?
I was born in 1920 in Chicago, Illinois.
What was the date?
Oh, October 1st.
I'm October 19th.
Huh?
I'm October born as well.
Hiya. We're related.
How old are you currently?
How old is what?
How old are you currently?
I'm 95 and still alive.
What was your full rank by the time you left the armed services?
Say it again.
What was your full rank by the time you left the armed services?
My rank? I was a private first class.
Okay. And tell me the units that you were a part of during World War II.
82nd Airborne. So.
You were also in the 307?
Yeah,
Company
the
B.
307 was in the 82nd, that's right.
And Company B,
Yeah, right.
So I want to backtrack a little bit before
Hello.
we go on. You said you were born in Chicago. Did you grow up there as well?
I grew up till I was 6 years old.
Then what?
In Chicago, and then we came to California. My mother was ill, and they recommended the weather here, so we came here.
What were the names of your parents and what were their occupations?
My father was a expert cigar man. He bought and sold cigars, and he bought tobacco by the carload. And my mom, what did she used to do, my mom? She was just a mother. I had 3 brothers.
What were the names of your folks?
My brothers?
Your parents?
My parents. My mother's name was Rose. My father's name was Carl.
Tell me, your brothers, where did they serve?
Where did he serve?
During World War, did any of them serve during World War II?
I had 3 brothers, all in the service.
What branches?
I was the 4th son, and I was the 4th one to go in the service. They were all in the service.
Did they all see combat?
My brother Jerry was stationed in London, and they would bomb it every 2-3 days, and he had to dodge the bombs, you know. And but they never invaded London. And let's see, my brother Gene, he was in the Philippines. My brother Joe, he was in the Navy. So there were 4 of us all in the service.
And you were the youngest?
Yes.
Were you close growing up with your brothers?
Was I close to my mother?
Your brothers?
Oh yes, very close. Especially Jerry, the one that was closest to me. He was like a father to me. My dad died when I was very, very young.
How old were you when your dad died?
6 years old.
So right before you moved to California?
Oh yeah.
So you never got to know your dad?
I vaguely remember him, very vaguely.
Did he serve in World War I?
My father, no. Oh, in 1, I don't remember.
So where did you end up growing up in California?
Say that again.
When you moved to California, where did you end up growing up?
When was I growing up?
You moved to California when you were 6.
Yeah.
Where did you end up growing up? What city?
Oh, here? What city here?
Yeah, when you moved to California?
From Chicago, Illinois. I came here to Los Angeles.
Okay. So you grew up in LA then?
Yes.
Talk to me about what kind of things you would do for fun as a child.
Say it again.
What kind of things would you do for fun as a child growing up?
Oh, we used to play kick the can. You ever heard of that?
Tell me about it.
Well, kick the can is everybody hides and there's a can out on the sidewalk somewhere, and one person has to go and try and find everybody. But if they go kick the can and they can't find them, then they get points for kicking the can.
What other games would you play?
What are the other games? Wow. I used to ice skate in Chicago, and we played ice hockey. And you know what ice hockey is. And we played baseball, and we played basketball, but ice hockey was great. And I had my own ice skates, and we lived next door to an empty lot that we had flooded and made it into a big ice rink. And I'd go up and down the stairs, the wooden stairs in the back, in my skates. And I'd go back up and have lunch in the kitchen and go back down and skate.
Can you talk to me about what it was like growing up in the Great Depression?
What was it like when?
Growing up in the Great Depression?
Oh, it was tough. I sold magazines. I walked for miles for a nickel, and money was very scarce. And people were a lot of people were out of money completely, and it was a very bad scene. You know, the people lost their jobs and ran out of money, and it was tough. Yeah, depression.
Were there any specific instances that made you realize that there was a Great Depression going on?
You definitely know it. When there weren't enough food to eat for some people, and I went out and my mom baked bread, and I would sell it door to door, the bread, homemade bread, to get some money and do things. And it was a very tough times. Yeah, I never forget it.
After your dad died, how did your mom end up providing for all four of you?
My dad left money for us, and thank God, and my mom took care of all four of us. And she was not healthy. She was under the doctor's care. So the doctor recommended us go to California. So we went from Chicago to California on the train, the Chief. And I remember we were in the dining car. They carried me in there and sat me down so I wouldn't have to walk in with crutches and everybody would see me. So my brother used to carry me on his back.
Why did you have crutches?
I had a bad leg.
What happened?
A bone separated in my heel, and the doctor recommended not to walk on it.
For how long?
He didn't say how long, but eventually it healed. I played football, and everything went fine eventually.
What high school did you end up attending?
In Chicago?
No, in California.
Los Angeles High School. LA High, they called it, Los Angeles High School.
And what year did you graduate?
In 42, I think it was.
During high school, were you more of an academic or athletic type?
Athletic.
What kind of sports did you play?
Football. Football, baseball, basketball, mainly football.
And when you would get together with some of your buddies during your teenage years, what kind of things would you guys do for fun?
In high school, well, we would try and get some dates and go out and have some fun. And we'd go to the show, you know, and that's about it.
Take me through a typical date night back then.
Say it again?
A typical date night? What kind of things would you guys do for dates back then?
Dates? When you took your girlfriend out? Well, we take them to the show, to a movie, and where else would we go? I don't remember if there was a dance or something, but otherwise, that was it. Yeah.
Did you go steady with anyone?
I think at one time I did. I can't remember. Yeah. Oh, yes, I did go steady with a girl.
Who were some of your childhood best friends?
What about my best friend?
Who were they?
My best friends?
Growing up.
My best friends were Trev Wright, and he was a ranger up north. You know what a ranger is?
Like a army ranger?
A ranger is somebody that takes care of the mountains in case of fires and takes care of the land, you know.
And growing up, he was your friend?
Yeah.
Before the war?
Before the war.
What happened to him? Did he serve?
I lost contact with him.
Talk to me about some of your fondest memories of your childhood.
Memories of what?
Your childhood. Your fondest memories.
My childhood? Well, I had a wagon, a four-wheel wagon that I used to play with. And the kids in the neighborhood, we used to play games, kick the can, and you know what kick the can is? And we played tag, and we played some baseball, and a little football too, and on the lawns, you know. And that was about it.
What were the first few jobs you had growing up?
Jobs? I think the very first job I ever had was selling magazines. And to me, that was a big business. I sold the Saturday Evening Post. I guess they still publish it, I don't know. And the Liberty and the Ladies' Home Journal, those three magazines. And I used to walk around and go to the car agencies and the stores and went around and sold magazines. And some people would say, hey, that little guy, and felt sorry for me, and they'd buy a magazine, I guess. I did pretty good.
Besides that, what other jobs did you have growing up?
I think I helped in the grocery store once, and I also helped in a barber shop, and that's about it. Yeah.
What kind of music did you like back then?
What kind of music? At that age, I liked all the music, but I couldn't name anything at that time. I wasn't big in music. Yeah.
Before Pearl Harbor, do you remember hearing about what was happening with the Nazis and the Battle of Britain and how Japan invaded China? I mean, do you remember reading about that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we heard about all that.
Did you think that the U.S. was going to get involved?
No, I never thought we'd ever go to war.
Really?
Oh, never. We were peace-loving people.
Where were you when you heard about the attack on Pearl Harbor?
I was on a train going from San Diego to Los Angeles, and I heard it when I was on the train. I had a job in San Diego, and I lived in Los Angeles, and I'd go back and forth on the train from San Diego to Los Angeles. And I heard it when I was on the train on my way to Los Angeles.
What, someone told you, or did they have a radio in the train?
I don't remember if it was a radio, but the news came through, and everybody in the car I was in were all talking about it.
What were your thoughts when you heard about it?
What were my thoughts? I don't really remember what my thoughts were, but I knew I didn't like war. And I felt bad that we were involved in war.
Did you know that you were going to enlist after, like right after you heard about the attack? Is that something that you decided to do?
Well, not right off the bat. I never thought of enlisting right off the bat. I didn't even think of such a thing. But then when things start rolling, I decided to enlist.
Why?
I wanted to help the United States.
I
was a young man.
How old were you?
At that time, I must have been about 18, I guess. I don't know, 24, 18, I can't remember.
You were 24.
Was I?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right? Let's see, you were born in 20.
Yeah.
You were 21.
I was 21, just old enough to know better.
Did you go to university?
No. School. Huh?
After high school, so you didn't go to college?
No.
What did you do right after high school?
I got a job doing something. I forgot what it was. What did I do, Maj? After high school. I was working, but I forgot what I did.
Explain to me why you enlisted in the Army. A lot of guys I know who enlisted, they did it to get out of the Army, to join the Air Corps or the Navy.
Oh, no, I just was patriotic, I guess, and wanted to help.
I mean, that was the toughest assignment, being on the ground.
I guess so. I didn't really know about that then.
Where did you enlist?
I forgot if it was San Diego, I think. San Diego, California, I think. Or Los Angeles, but I can't remember. I think it was San Diego. Pretty sure. I'd have to look it up.
Well, tell me though, where did they assign you? Take
Hello?
me through what happened after you enlisted.
What happened after when I got in the Army? It was a bit frightening. I mean, you know, you're all of a sudden you're living in a barracks with a bunch of other guys, which you never did before. And you go to the bathroom. Everybody went to the bathroom at the same time. Life had changed. You know, it's a big change in your life. And we marched and we learned all kinds of Army tactics. That was basic training, but then I went into the paratroopers and became a paratrooper.
Where did you go for basic training?
Basic training was in, where was it, Maj? Basic training, Camp Roberts.
Near San Luis Obispo?
Yeah. Camp Roberts, yeah.
And it was there that you joined the paratroopers?
No, I had to take basic training first there, and then I went to the paratroopers.
Paratroopers are all volunteer.
Yeah, I volunteered.
Why did you volunteer for the paratroopers?
I volunteered to it, sure.
Why?
What?
Why?
Why? I wanted to be a paratrooper. I thought that was more glamorous, more exciting, more... I didn't want to fight and have some bomb blow me up. I want to fight the Germans man to man. I was a young man, you know, and I was that's the way I felt then.
Did the extra pay have anything to do with it?
Did what have anything?
The extra pay?
I don't understand.
Did the extra pay have anything to do with it? No. It's because you wanted to get up close.
Yeah, I wanted to be a paratrooper, sure.
Take me through a typical day of basic training at Camp Roberts. You wake up early.
Oh, they did the calisthenics and all the basic things, how to make a fire and...
Take me through a typical day at Camp Roberts. You wake up early, then?
Camp Roberts was a basic training. They would teach you all the basic things, how to make a fire and how to build a pup tent and how to cook. And we marched and we hiked and we did all of the basic things. And then, of course, we had a rifle and we went to the rifle range and shot our rifles off and target practice.
What qualification did you get in rifle training?
Qualifications? None.
Expert, marksman, sharpshooter?
Oh, I don't remember what I was.
Expert?
Yeah, I don't remember.
How long did Camp Roberts last?
I have no idea. I imagine like 6 weeks or 3 months. I don't remember.
And how did you find out about this outfit, the paratroopers?
How did I find out about the paratroopers? I think in a movie. I don't remember how I found out about the paratroopers. Oh, yes. We were in basic training. You know what that is? Mm-hmm. And one of the paratroopers came to our camp and demonstrated what they did and how they did it. And this man that came was built like Superman, you know. And he told us all about paratroopers, and that was the inspiration I had to be a paratrooper.
Really?
Yeah.
And then you volunteered.
Yeah, you have to. You can't be a paratrooper unless you volunteer.
So when you volunteered, where did they send you?
Camp Roberts.
No, that was basic training.
Oh, yeah. Then I went to Fort Benning, Georgia.
And what happened there?
They ran us through the same training, and eventually we had to make 5 parachute jumps. And in order to get your wings, I got my wings after I made 5 jumps. I still got them. A replica of them.
Wow. Tell me. Talk to me about the first jump you ever made in training.
The first jump I made was like jumping to my death. It is so frightening. But they build you up to it, and it's not that bad. The most frightening thing was a telephone pole that you had to climb up and jump off of, and a cable would catch you, and you'd slide down. And that, you know, you jump and there's nothing down there but land, and it's spooky. It scares you.
Did a lot of guys wash out?
A lot of guys couldn't do it, and they washed out.
What kept you going? How could you? Like, what made you able to do it when so many guys?
I wanted to be a paratrooper. I guess, you know, I was a young man, and I wanted to win the war. Yeah.
Did you have a personal animosity towards the Germans or the Japanese or the Italians?
At that time, I did, yes.
What were your thoughts about them?
Well, we hated them. Well, they did all that thing. The Germans were overtaking countries and making slaves out of a lot of people. And we felt we were on the right side, you know.
I just want to backtrack a little bit before we go any further.
Okay.
What kind of hobbies and interests did you have before the war?
I guess chase girls.
Besides that one?
Hobbies. What kind of hobbies did I have? You remember, Maj?
Horse.
What were they?
Horses.
You hear?
Horses.
Oh, yeah, horses. Yeah, I used to work at the racetrack when I was a young man.
Before the war?
I think that was after the war. I forgot.
It's only been 75 years.
That's all? Let me think. I think I worked at the track after the war.
Okay. So then tell me, after you heard about Pearl Harbor, did you listen to FDR's address the following day?
The president? I believe I did. I believe so, but I don't remember exactly.
And before that, during the Depression, did you listen to FDR's fireside chats?
I think I heard some of them, yeah.
Were there any particular radio programs that you listened to?
I don't remember.
And your family, did you guys suffer during the Depression?
Yeah, I had 3 older brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And during the Depression, you couldn't get a job. And we had to get little jobs. I sold magazines.
How old were you when you started selling magazines?
I must have been about 7.
7?
Yeah. 7 or 8 years old, that's all.
And you were just doing this to put food on the table?
No, I sold magazines at 7. You know. I don't even remember if I put the money and gave it to my mother. I probably just kept it. You're going to sell all this, I know.
No, it's just for you.
It's worth a fortune.
Yeah, talking with you. Yeah. Tell me, back to Fort Benning, Georgia. How long did it take for those 5 jumps to be completed? Like, over what period of time?
I think 4 weeks. I don't remember.
Wow. And after 5 jumps, then you're a qualified paratrooper?
You got your wings.
Yeah. Besides the jumps, what other kind of stuff would they have you guys do to build you up?
Oh, we never marched, we jogged. In unison, we jogged the same as you march, you know, in unison, all of us. And we were in England, and the English used to see us and they'd go, they couldn't believe us because we would run in step, you know. And the English didn't run like that, I guess. And we were tigers, all of us.
And your training, right, you know, you guys are way before the 101st Airborne, the 82nd.
The 82nd.
Yeah, I mean, you guys were training, and the campaign in North Africa is what was happening, right?
Before the war, you mean?
No, I mean, when you were training, they were fighting in Africa. Is that right?
I think so.
Because you made your first combat was in Sicily.
Is where?
Sicily?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
After Pearl Harbor, talk to me about the surge of patriotism that you witnessed. Is there anything
other people, you mean?
Is there anything that you recall, what the country looked like after Pearl Harbor?
I don't understand the question.
Like, do you remember the country coming together?
Our country?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
after
that.
Pearl Harbor?
Yeah. I remember everybody helping one another. Yeah.
Did you receive any specialized training?
Did I have specialized training? You bet I had specialized training. To be a paratrooper, it's specialized training.
I understand that, but I'm saying within that, did you have any other specialized training?
I think I did, and I can't remember what it is now.
Did it have something to do with you being a demolitions expert?
Yeah, I wanted to be, yeah, they taught me how to blow everything up, you know. I used to throw dynamite around like they were firecrackers.
Yeah, talk to me about that. How did you end up in a combat engineer battalion?
I volunteered. I volunteered to do it. And explosives was something that I learned how to use. I knew how to use the detonators to blow things up. And we knew approximately how much to blow a car up or a building or a different amount of dynamite you needed for different jobs. Yeah. And we jumped with dynamite when we went in combat.
So when they're training you with demolitions out in Fort Benning, what kind of things are they expecting you to use this for? What are they expecting you to do with the demolitions? Blowing up bridges? Is that one?
Damage, anything to help the war effort. Blow up trains, cars, boats, anything you can that belonged to Germany.
Did you end up blowing up trains?
A train?
Overseas?
I don't think I think in practice maybe I did, but I never blew up a real train.
So what kind of things did you end up blowing up when you got overseas?
A German train went, there's a big, what do you call it, the earth where the trains went. It was
tunnel.
Yeah, it was almost a tunnel, but it was open. And I was on the top. And the Germans were retreating and going back to Germany. And I threw some dynamite over on the train. Tried to blow it up. But we stopped the train just about 50 yards from there. Took all our prisoners back. Yeah. Train load. Going back into Germany. Yep.
Do you remember any of your drill sergeants?
Drill sergeants? vaguely. You want their names?
No, it's fine. I want to know, though, how tough it was training to be a paratrooper. What the kind of things that you had to endure were.
Have you got a couple of days? The training to be a paratrooper was all so different than just the training to become a army man. We never marched, we always ran in step.
Mm-hmm.
And if you out of line, whoever was in charge would say, give me 50 push-ups. You know what a push-up is? And you had to do it. I never thought I could do 50 push-ups. But when I was out of line, I had to do it. I had to do 50 push-ups. But sometimes they'd say, give me 20, 50, whatever it was. Whoever was in charge would name it. So the training was tough to be a paratrooper. They wanted it to be. They wanted the paratroopers to be tough, and we were.
What other kind of things did you have to endure during training?
In training? Well, I guess the most interesting thing is with the dynamite and signals, to signal somebody with your hands, to tell them what to do or where to go, right or left. Or
Do you remember any of that?
Not really now. I don't remember them. But we had hand signals. And in case you couldn't talk or make noise, you used your hands. And that came in handy.
It came in handy.
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
Were there any soldiers that you got close to?
Oh, yeah, my buddies. Yeah, I was close to a lot of buddies.
Do you remember any of their names?
Sure. Denton, Wally Denton, from Santa Monica, California. And Dennis, I can't think of his last name, Dennis. The three of us were like musketeers who were always together. And in basic training and in our outfit also.
Did they survive the war?
No, I'm afraid not.
Both of them were killed?
I think so, or I'd see them. I don't remember really, but they must be gone or I would see them. I know Denton, I went to see his folks after the war, and I know he was gone. But the war was just a whole big nightmare. It was awful. I mean, when you're a young man living a good life and all of a sudden this happens and your living conditions have all changed and everything's tough, tough.
What are the kind of military tactics that they're teaching you in Fort Benning? I mean...
Well, we knew mainly tactics with dynamite.
Okay.
How much to use to blow train tracks up, and how much to use to blow a train up, and how much to use to blow a truck up, and how much to use to stop the water flowing, and all different things in war. But it was tough.
After Fort Benning was over, where did you guys go?
After Fort Benning, Fort Benning was a paratrooper, right? I guess I went south.
Louisiana? Louisiana.
Louisiana, no, I don't think
No?
I was in Louisiana.
When did you break your leg?
You hear?
When did you break your leg?
Oh, yeah, I broke my leg in training, and it put me back. I put a cast all the way up to here, and all my buddies went on, and I visited them in a graveyard in Germany. All my buddies, all my pals. I broke my leg, it saved my life.
Wait, when did you break your leg?
I don't remember the date, but it was in training.
It was before you saw combat.
Yeah.
So when did you get overseas?
When did I go overseas? That's a good question. I've forgotten when I went over. Let's see, was 42 was the date? I don't remember the date now. I may have a record somewhere.
But Sicily, you were there for Sicily.
Yeah.
So that was the first combat for...
I think Sicily was.
For the 82nd.
We went through Africa, and then from Africa, the fighting was over in Africa, and then we parachuted to Sicily. I parachuted in Sicily.
Now, how did you break your leg?
In a parachute jump in, I think, Fort Benning, Georgia.
Was it your 5th jump?
I don't remember what number jump it was, but I know all my buddies went on and they all got killed. Broke my leg, saved my life.
Because they went into combat before you.
Oh yeah, and they got killed. My pals that I went through basic training with and training in parachute school, and they went on and they all got killed.
Where was it that they got killed?
Sicily, I think.
But you were there for Sicily.
After the fighting, I didn't jump on Sicily.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I don't think so. My memory goes now. I'm mixed up.
Can you talk to me about the Salerno jump?
The Salerno jump was a piece of cake for me because they put me up in the hills to guard with some other soldiers, and we didn't see a lot of combat there that I can remember, Salerno Beach. The Germans used to come by with their bombers and Spitfire, and not Spitfires, I forgot what they call their little fighters. And,
Messerschmitts?
Yeah, Messerschmitts, Messerschmitts, and they would dive bomb our Navy, and some of them would dive bomb us on the beach, and it was frightening, you know. I was a young man, and they're trying to kill us, and we're trying to kill them, and it was like a war.
It was a war.
Tell me, I heard that in Italy you got buried alive.
I did.
What can you talk to me about what happened?
Well, there was an Italian garrison, a great big red brick building that the Italians had their soldiers put in there. It was a barracks for the Italian soldiers. And when we took over that building, and we were there. I had a little bunk there, and you know. And then I think it was some Sunday morning, all of a sudden the building blew up, and I was buried alive. Yeah, I was buried alive, and this is it. You know, I was saying my prayers, and I was like this, because the building went, you know, and I was buried just like this. And my buddies uncovered me eventually. I could hear them, you know, and I'd yell. I could, you know, I couldn't move my mouth, but I could, you know, make noise. And eventually they uncovered me. And I went to the hospital. I was on a stretcher, and I remember I was on a floor in the hall, and I threw up, and it was a lot of fun.
But there must have been a lot of layers of what, concrete on top of you? Or what kind of material was it?
Oh, red brick building. And it was big, heavy walls. The Italians made for their soldiers. It was a barracks for the Italian soldiers.
Did you become unconscious at any time, or you were conscious the entire time?
I was conscious, yeah.
And you thought you were going to die in there?
Why, sure.
How long did it take them?
I didn't have my watch on, and if I did, it felt like 6 months, but, you know, I didn't think they'd ever get to me. But I could hear them digging, and eventually they got to me and covered a leg, and then went the rest of the body and got me, and I went to a hospital. They had me on a stretcher, and they didn't have room for me in a bed. They just stuck me in the hall. I remember I threw up in the hall on the stretcher.
What was the cause of the...
What was my wife?
What was the cause for the building to... the cause of the explosion?
Dynamite.
Germans?
Sure. We don't blow our own people up.
No, I know that, but they were that close to you guys?
Yeah, it was a time bomb that they set, that they tied it to one of those bunks in the basement. And after about 50 bunks went out, the thing was tied to one of those bunks and it blew everything up.
So they put this time bomb as they were retreating? They put the time bomb there as they were retreating?
They retreated and left the time bomb behind.
For you?
Yeah, thanks.
So, how long did it take you to recuperate after that?
I don't remember, but it was months.
You were heavily injured?
Or weeks, I don't remember.
Do you remember what kind of injuries you had?
I remember being in the hospital, and then they didn't have room, and they put us in a tent in the hospital. And the German Stukers would dive bomb us. Even though we had big crosses out to tell them it was a hospital, they still bombed us. Yeah.
So, this was in Italy. After that, did you go back to fight in Italy, or was your next jump in D-Day?
Wasn't D-Day ahead of this? No? I guess I went back to the States. I'm trying to think.
Take your time.
No, Africa. I think we went from Africa.
Yeah, Africa to Italy.
Yeah. And then we went D-Day. And
no, but I'm saying, so after you got buried alive,
yeah,
did you go back and fight in Italy, or your next jump was on D-Day?
I don't remember. I don't remember. I didn't actually fight in Italy. They had me in the hospital. I was all torn up.
From the building falling?
Yeah. Yeah, I had one leg. It was bad.
They look pretty good to me.
Now, yeah. They healed.
Only took 70 years.
God bless them.
So...
I think one of them was in a cast for I don't know how long when I got well, you know.
So then you're shipped over to England.
Yeah.
What's happening in England?
We were chasing all the girls.
Besides that?
Happening like what? We trained. Yeah, first they gave us a little time off, you know, a couple of weeks or whatever it was. And then we had replacements come in. You know what replacements are? And the replacements, we would try and teach them, and we trained together and learned each other's habits, and they would learn our commands, and then we went back into combat.
How did you guys treat the new guys coming in?
How did what?
How did you guys treat the replacements?
How did we treat them? We tried to treat them good, but they were frightened, you know.
When you dropped on Salerno Beach, do you remember the drop?
Sure.
What do you remember about it?
I ended up in the hills. I
mean, but was there a lot of flak?
Oh, yeah, the Italian, the planes, our ships were in the harbor there. And they would try and blow them up. And they'd come by and drop all kinds of stuff, you know.
So, but as you were dropping down on the parachute drop, I mean, was it at night or was it during the day?
I'm trying to think now. I think during the day. I think that was a day jump. I've forgotten. It could be at night.
So, back to England, though. So you guys are training in England. Is it obvious that you guys are going to invade France?
I didn't hear that.
Is it obvious that you guys are going to end up invading France?
Oh, I didn't feel that way. We had no idea. We just took our commands from our officers and did what we had to do, but we had no idea where we'd end up. We just all hoped we'd live.
Tell me about the D-Day jump. So I know before D-Day, there was a few other times that you guys were about to go over there, but they canceled last minute.
Yeah, we practiced and practiced. And we had jumps. We jumped in the States. And we trained. And when we jumped, it was spooky. You don't know what you're going to land on. Water, land.
How long does it usually take for you?
How long? Well, when we jump as close to the land as we can. And it's about 200-300 feet is all it is from the plane to the ground. Because they do that, we do that purposely so we don't hang in the air and get shot. It's bad enough to hang in the air that long. So the planes would drop us low.
And your D-Day jump, what do you remember about that?
Can't forget it. D-Day? Holy mackerel, what a nightmare. D-Day jump. I'm trying to think. I can't think right now. I don't know. Where did we land D-Day? In Salerno? No, where?
Normandy.
Normandy. On the beach? I forgot now.
I think it was the incident where you were stranded for like 10 days.
I think I landed in a tree.
You and 2 other guys, no food, no water, in the field?
Oh, yeah, in the wheat field.
Was that D-Day?
Yeah, that was after D-Day. And we got wiped out, except for us. We hid in that wheat field. We killed a few Germans on the way, but then we were outnumbered and we got in the middle of a wheat field and just stayed right there. We had our rations and a canteen of water. We ran out of water, and when it rained, we'd open our raincoat and catch some water in it and put it in our canteen, and we survived.
This was your D-Day jump, or this was...
I think it was D-Day. I forgot which jump that was.
So explain to me, you guys are hiding in a wheat field?
Yeah.
How are you hiding?
In the wheat.
Laying down?
Yeah. We weren't standing up.
What would you do for food?
We brought our own.
Rations?
Our own rations.
How long did you survive like this?
I think it was 5 days. I've forgotten now. I may have it written all down somewhere, but I think it was 5 days. Let's see, D-Day was what date?
June 6th.
Did you say Tuesday?
June 6th.
26th.
June 6th.
Oh, yeah, of course, June 6th. Yeah, June 6th, oh my God, what a date. How could I forget? June 6th was D-Day. I can't remember.
That's fine.
But we were lucky. Hey, there were 48 of us and 4 came back. 2 were with me.
Because you guys hid out in that field?
Yeah, 48 went in and 4 came back and 2 were with me. 3 guys. The other one was the commanding officer. And some French people hit him. But he'd have never made it.
What do you remember on D-Day and the jump into France? Is there anything that you remember about the flak? I mean, what was it like?
Sure, I remember the flak. The only reason you dodge the flak is you pull the riser and spill the air so you fall faster. So you dodge that flak. If you hang up there, they're going to kill you. So you pull that and you fall like there's no chute. And then you get about 50, 100 feet from the ground and let go, and it stops your descent enough to land.
Explain to me, when you're on the C-47 on the way to the drop zone,
yeah,
what's going on in your head?
In my head? That's a good question. I don't remember back that far, but I was always thinking about, did I bring the right equipment with me? And you know, you're thinking about all of the right things, and you wonder what's going to happen, and you want to get out of the plane. The flak's coming up, and you want to jump and get going. And eventually they stand up and stand in the door. That was the command. Hook up. You take the parachute, had a thing you hook up. When you jump, it would pull the chute open. You know how that worked? Yeah. So when they'd say stand in the door, you would shuffle up to the door, and then the command was go, and we'd all go. And when you're floating in the air and they're shooting at you, it's no fun. So you grab the risers and spill the air so you go down faster and you don't get shot at. So you do all you can to stay alive. 5 by 5 and still alive.
And you told me that you jumped into Normandy with dynamite.
Yeah, I was a demolition man. I trained with dynamite and how to blow up things and how much to use on a train and how much to use.
So for D-Day, what was the ideal situation? What was your objective on that day?
I can't remember now. I think blow a bridge up. I think we blew it. I think we blew a bridge up.
Now, for paratroopers, you guys are dropped into a zone, and after that, are you treated like regular infantrymen?
Exactly. Exactly, infantrymen. That's all we were once we were on the ground. Yeah, no, you can't jump twice.
Can you talk to me about some of your most frightening experiences during World War II?
Yeah, I think being buried alive was frightening. Because when you're buried alive and you don't realize what's going on, the building blew up and you're in it, and all of a sudden you're covered head to toe, and you say to yourself, what's the matter? I'm alive, and you start to struggle, and the more you struggle, the tighter it got. So you don't struggle anymore. If you try and move a little, the earth or whatever was around you would tighten in, and it was no fun.
Were you the only casualty, or were there other guys that got hurt?
Were there other people? Yeah, there were other paratroopers with me.
In the building?
Sure.
What other frightening experiences?
What other frightening experiences? You got a couple hours? I don't know. I can't think of them now, but we had plenty of them. You know, you go on a patrol, and it was crazy, the things that we did. And after a while, I thought I was nuts to join the paratroopers. The things that we did were unconscious.
What do you mean?
Well, the missions that we had. Two men go down there, down the tracks, and if they get shot at, come back. You know, crazy things. There was no fun war. No good.
What were you saying about the patrol?
What did I say about the patrol?
You were mentioning.
We went on many patrols. Yeah, many patrols. Some of them we went down the train tracks to see if the tracks were okay. And eventually they sent a train through from England or somewhere. The English sent a train through, and there were soldiers in the train, and we stopped the train, and we got on the train and went with it for a while, and I've forgotten now what happened.
What would you say were some of the hardest things that you had to endure?
Well, I think being without food and water and having a special impregnated uniform on that doesn't breathe, and all you do is sweat, and having no food, no water, it was a little spooky. But out of 48 men, 3 of us made it. Myself and 2 men.
Did you think you would survive the war?
Did I think I'd survive the war? Certain times I didn't, and certain times I did. It would depend on what was going on.
Talk to me about the times that you didn't.
Didn't think so? Well, in the middle of a wheat field with a bunch of Germans looking for you and shooting all over.
They were looking for you guys.
Well, they were shooting. They were shooting the hedgerows. You know what a hedgerow is? But we were in the middle of the hedgerows. Nobody would go there. We were trying to get to a hedgerow, but the Germans came, so we dived in the wheat. And they didn't do anything there. They shot a little bit out there, but they didn't hit us. And so we were lucky, that's all.
How did you finally escape that situation?
How did I find what?
Finally escape that situation.
I don't understand what you're saying.
How did you get out of the wheat field?
Somebody came and dragged us out. We couldn't walk. We were so weak and so hungry and so thirsty, and we were so skinny. We were 48 men and 4 came back.
They all were in the wheat field?
No. Oh, the wheat field, yeah. There were 3 of them with me.
What do you remember about Operation Market Garden? The daytime drop in Holland?
In Holland, I remember I dropped in Holland. I jumped in Holland.
What do you remember about it?
I'm trying to think.
Because that was a daytime drop. That's different than your other drops.
Oh, yeah, it was scary. I don't know, we had some kind of skirmishes when we jumped, and we were shooting the Germans, and they were shooting us, and eventually we made it. I don't remember now. Is this going on now? This camera?
Yeah. Do you want me to turn it off?
Oh, I don't care. I just wondered.
You forget about it after a while.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, you can sell all that.
Can you talk to me about some of your most memorable instances in combat?
Most memorable, I think.
Besides the building.
Yeah, that's the most memorable is being buried alive.
Mm-hmm.
You had trouble breathing, and eventually they dug me out, but that was, I said my prayers and never thought I'd see the daylight again. Being buried alive is a frightening thing. And big heavy bricks on you and dirt, and if you tried to move, it would get tighter. So you say, what am I doing? Giving up? And I went like this. Oh, it just tightened all around me. So you don't want to try and move because it would just tighten. The dirt would move in, you know what I mean? And so we stayed. But out of 48 men, 4 came back out of that.
That was the wheat field.
Yeah.
I want to know, sir, you mentioned that you guys got into skirmishes.
I'm not hearing you.
You mentioned that you guys got into skirmishes?
I mentioned what?
That you got into skirmishes.
Skirmishes? Yeah.
You being a demolitions man, you're also equipped with an M1?
Sure. Everybody had an M1.
Can you talk to me about the kind of skirmishes that you remember fighting in?
No, I don't. I don't remember. I remember I was hiding in a field and the Germans came, and as soon as they got to the gate, I fired at them and ran. And I got away. I was lucky. And I don't know if I hit any of them or not. Now you parachute, and you see them in the plane when you jump, and that's the last time you see them. I think 48 went in and 4 came back. And 2 were with me.
What was your most interesting experience overseas?
I think it was that girl I met.
What girl?
I'm going to tell you.
Besides that?
Most interesting overseas, I mean the war or London?
The war.
The war, well, I don't know, I guess we blew up a couple of trains that were going into Germany or somewhere. And
what do you remember about the Battle of the Bulge?
can't forget it. The Battle of the Bulge was the where the Germans broke through, right? Yeah, well, what they did is they took the 82nd Airborne and took us on one side, and the 101st Airborne on the other side like that, and cut the Germans in two. And I was there, and they dumped me off in a truck, and we went with our gun and ammunition, you know. I think I captured somebody, I forgot.
What was the cold like?
What was what?
The cold?
Clothes.
Cold.
I don't hear you.
It was cold.
Oh, it was cold? I don't remember now. I think I had a German overcoat. I don't know.
Did you have any experiences in which you felt alone or detached from the rest of the guys? Besides the field incident?
Besides the wheat field? No, I guess not. The wheat field, I was alone.
And how many days were you there?
I forgot now. 12 days total, but alone, I think 4 days.
You were in a wheat field for 12 days?
I think so.
Take me through what you would do in a day's a long time.
The Germans were all over the place.
You would just lay down?
I could kill a German, but I wouldn't be alive.
So you were just laying down for 24 hours?
That's right. You do it too. It's amazing what you do to stay alive. Is this on now? Oh, I'm in trouble.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I was with 2 other men.
But
I don't think either one of them are alive.
But you stayed down on that, how big of an area are we talking about?
How big an area?
How big was the field?
Oh, I would guess about 50 feet by 50 feet or something. I don't know.
That's pretty small.
Is it? Well, see, they would grow their crops there, and they would grow hedgerows. You know what a hedgerow is? Or all the way around it to keep the wind and so the birds and whatever.
You were in the middle of all these hedgerows.
Yeah. I was lucky because when the Germans came, they just shot into those hedgerows, figuring we would be in there. And we weren't. And that's where I would have been but they came too fast. Or I'd have been in there in those hedgerows, you betcha. And they'd have killed me. But they came too quick, so we hit the dirt. Is this on now? Am I being recorded? I'm in trouble. I'm glad we won the war, though.
You helped win it.
I did? I didn't do anything.
What were some of your most unusual experiences?
Most unusual experiences. Boy, there's a lot of them, but I can't think of them now. I guess a couple of my buddies after D-Day were together in that wheat field somewhere. And I found them. And one of them was doing something real silly, and I couldn't help but laugh in the middle of a war. You know, I didn't laugh out loud, but...
Do you think about your war days often?
No.
Not at all?
No, I try to forget them. Betcha. War is hell. It's no fun.
Tell me, what was your specific role?
My Pacific what?
Role?
Role in the war, what to do? Well, I was a demolition man. You know what that is?
Tell me.
Well, a demolition man takes dynamite and blows bridges up and trains and planes and whatever you can.
Where'd you get all your demolition from?
We jumped with it.
What if you needed more?
I had it wrapped around my legs, dynamite. Yeah, and I had the things that blow the dynamite up here in cotton, because they're delicate.
When you were fighting the war, did you realize at the time that this is the world that was going to save humanity? I mean, did it seem that important at the time?
At the time we were fighting, all we did is try and stay alive. I really didn't think of those things then. Mm. When they're chasing you to kill you, you just want to stay alive. 5 and still alive, do-da. Let's see what that is.
Tell me, what was it like to see all the destruction done to the cities?
What was it like to see? It was horrible to see what the bombings did to the houses and the citizens, and it was horrible. War is just horrible, horrible.
Did you interact with any of the civilians?
Hello?
Did you interact with any of the civilians?
Did I talk to the civilians?
Did you interact with any of them overseas?
I don't understand what you said.
Did you interact with any of the civilians?
In England, yeah.
I meant like in France or in Italy.
Oh yeah, in France. There was a little kid that picked me up and took me home eventually to his parents. Yeah.
Was there anything that you would do for good luck before you would go into combat?
Something superstitious, you mean? I don't remember anything like that.
Were you religious back then?
Religious? Paquito, a little bit.
Now?
Now? Paquito, a little bit.
Talk to me about the living conditions overseas.
During the war? It depends on what country you're talking about. They're all a little different.
Tell me.
England.
Oh, but I meant combat. So like Italy, France, Belgium,
Italy,
Germany.
France. Well, they all had trouble getting milk and good water and food, although they had cattle that they could kill and they had meat, you know. So they were pretty well off. Yeah.
But did you live in pup tents or in foxholes?
Did I what?
Live in pup tents or foxholes?
I lived in a foxhole. You know what that is? Yeah. You dig a hole in the ground and get in it. And then if they start shelling you, you got a chance because the shells hit and go like this. And if you're under the ground, you got a better chance not to be hit. So we would dig a hole wherever we went.
What do you remember about the German artillery?
They were awful, and they were accurate. And you could hear those babies shoot, and as soon as you heard the gun, you hit the ground and try to hide, you know, because of the shrapnel from whatever they were shooting at. Sure, their guns were unbelievably. And the Germans knew how to fight. We didn't know how to fight. We'd come to a hill, and instead of going around the hill, which they had all zeroed in, you know what zeroed in means, we went over it. They didn't expect anybody to go over the hill. They expect you to go around it. And they had everything zeroed in on both sides around it. And we went over the hill. We didn't know how to fight. If we knew how to fight, they'd have killed us.
Were there any other instances that you thought you might not make it?
Well, being buried alive was one of them. And I guess in the wheat field was one of them.
Anything else?
And no, but I've been on patrols and shot at, and you know.
Tell me about that.
What do you want to know? Well, we were told to go down the train tracks. We went down the train tracks, and we got to a certain point, and they started shooting at us. And we just dove one way or the other, you know. Didn't want to be out in the middle on a train track. Rather be on the side, have a little shelter. War is no fun at all. They're trying to kill you. We're trying to kill them. It's terrible war. No fun at all. Yep. I don't recommend it. You got to remember, I jumped with 48 men, 3 plane loads. 4 came back out of the 48. 2 were with me. The commanding officer was the other one. We were lucky.
Did you receive any medals or citations?
I think I did, but I don't know where they are.
Did you ever get wounded?
Yeah, I got a Purple Heart. That's nothing. Everybody got one of those when they got wounded, and everybody got wounded. Yeah, I got a Purple Heart, yeah. They were common, Purple Hearts. Where we were, you know.
How did you hear about Roosevelt's death?
I think I was on the train going to San Diego.
No, President Roosevelt, his death.
Roosevelt's death.
In 45.
In 45. Well, we're going backwards now, huh?
No, we're going forward.
I was in combat, wasn't I?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
How did you hear about the war ending? I mean, do you remember that?
Damn right. I was in France. And boy, did we celebrate. We danced in the street, and the French girls came out and danced with us in some little town I was in. I don't remember where. St. Mary-Galice was on the coast, I think. Anyway, the French were, you know, they were allies. They tried to help us.
When did you return home?
That's a good question. I thought I'd never forget. 1946, was it?
Even though you were overseas for a long time, it took them that long to get you home?
I don't remember what date I got home. I thought I'd remember everything, but I forget it.
That's fine. Do you remember what you did when you came home? The first thing you did, or the first person you saw?
Oh, my mother and my brothers.
All of them made it.
Yeah. And
all of your brothers made it alive?
Yeah. They all made it. My brother Joe was stationed in Catalina Island.
Oh.
And Jerry was a signalman, and he was in London. He was in charge of the teletype room. And my brother Gene, he went all over, but he came back. Gene, he was in the Secret Service, I think.
Was it easy for you to readjust to civilian life?
I haven't yet.
What do you mean by that?
I haven't adjusted yet. I have to adjust to civil. I haven't adjusted yet. I hope I settle down someday. It's up here, mental.
What, like the war?
Yeah.
You still think about it?
You can't forget it. You don't forget certain frightening things like that. You try to forget it, and I do forget most of it. But it's there. You still got it.
But you never talked about it when you came home.
I didn't want to. I didn't talk about it. I didn't want anybody to hear about that stuff. And I didn't want to talk about it because it would frighten me, I guess. I was not normal when I came back.
What do you mean by that?
Up here I was mixed up.
But isn't that just a normal human reaction to seeing the things that you had to see?
Say that again. Wait a minute. Okay.
You're telling me you're all mixed up in the head, but I'm saying
mixed up where?
In the head.
Oh, in the head.
But I'm saying that's just a normal human reaction to seeing what you had to see.
Yeah.
Right?
I guess so.
So aren't you normal then? You are.
Yeah. I'll be normal in no time.
You are normal.
Yeah, I hope so.
You are.
Yeah. But we won the war. The Germans knew how to fight, we didn't.
You just said some very interesting things. You know, it was you just didn't want to talk about it when you came home.
Yeah. Did I tell you, like, there's a big hill, and the Germans
thought you were going to go around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went over the thing. They were surprised. Because we didn't know how to fight. It was a phenomena.
Did you have nightmares after the war?
Very seldom. I have a few, but very seldom. I used to have more.
Yeah, that's why, right after the war.
Oh, yeah, after the war I had them. I'd jump about 2 feet while I was sleeping and wake up. I used to dream that I was in a foxhole, sleeping in the foxhole. The Germans got a bayonet he's going to stick in my belly. That was my nightmare. It was my bad dream.
Mm.
Yeah, because we would fall asleep in the foxhole. You get so tired, you just fall asleep.
What is that like, falling asleep in a combat zone? It's like there's so much danger around you, and you're putting your guard down.
You get so tired. You want to rest, and when you rest, you fall asleep.
How do you usually wake up? Someone wakes you up, or you wake yourself
No, you
up?
wake up, and there's a lot of noise, you know. But sleep was one of the things you didn't get, and you needed it. You go days and nights without sleeping, you get awful tired, you know. Is this thing on all the time? Oh, I'm in trouble.
No, you're doing good.
Oh, I didn't have my teeth.
Well, they look good. Those are your original teeth?
Yeah, I got some missing here. Gotta find them. They're here somewhere.
Wow.
Well, it's very nice of you to come and interview me.
It's very nice of you to save the world.
I didn't save the world.
What are you talking about?
I was another soldier.
Yeah, but only a very few amount of soldiers saw combat. And an even fewer amount of them saw it on the ground, face to face like you.
Well,
you guys,
paratroopers jumped right in the middle of it.
You guys saved the world.
I saved it, huh? Now what are we going to do with it?
It's up to you.
I got to find my teeth.
What are some life lessons that you learned from your time in the military?
Say that slowly.
What are some life lessons you learned from you learned from your time in the military?
I don't know. Keep your mouth shut. I learned a lot of things in the military, but I can't bullseye them right now. I don't know. There's a lot of things I learned.
What was the happiest day in your life?
The day I was born.
Besides that day?
Happiest day of my life. Oh, I guess when the war was over, I guess that was a big thrill for us.
What would you like to say to all those who died in the Second World War?
Second World War is this one that I was in.
What would you like to say to all those who died in it? Your buddies.
I would be speechless. I don't know what I'd say except that I miss them. I loved them. Fate. I don't know what it is, but some got killed and some didn't.
What messages and life advice would you like to leave for future generations?
Mind your mother and your father.
What wisdom would you impart onto me?
What would I pass on to you?
What wisdom would you impart onto me?
I can't get what you want.
What wisdom?
Wisdom.
Would you put onto me?
I guess keep your mouth shut and mind your own business and take good care of your mate and your children and enjoy life. Life is most important.
How do you want to be remembered, Mr. Gach?
Just one of the guys. That's all. If somebody wants to remember me, I'm just one of the guys. That's all. I don't need to be remembered. I'm not a hero. I'm alive. 5 by 5 and still alive.
Is there anything that you would like to add to the interview?
Anything I'd like to add to this interview? I think you did a very thorough job, and I want to thank you for being most kind.
Thank you for your service. All right.
This is Denton, and this is Wally.
And what happened to them?
They got killed in the war.
And they were your best friends?
My buddies, we were close. I had to visit a grave where they were buried. And I love those guys. They were so great.